I want to give you another chance. I'm going to take what's rightfully mine, with or without you.
Homelander just beat his own 12-year-old son nearly to death. And that's not even the most disturbing thing that happens in this episode of The Boys. Because while Ryan is losing control of his power, a secret weapon is discovered that could decide the entire war between Supes and humans. And Homelander is getting closer to something that could make him completely unstoppable. But the real question is, what happens when the world's strongest monster stops holding back and starts believing he's the savior? Because after episode 3, nothing feels safe anymore. We open the episode in Russia. Right away, there's a feeling that something is deeply wrong. Not just in the situation, but in Ryan himself. Ryan Butcher is no longer the confused kid trying to understand his powers. He's becoming something else entirely. When he's confronted by a Russian Special Forces unit, there's no hesitation, no panic, no emotional breakdown. Instead, he responds with overwhelming force and wipes out the entire squad with terrifying ease. It's not just the level of destruction that stands out, it's how natural it feels for him. This isn't a boy struggling with powers anymore. This is someone starting to understand exactly what he is capable of, and maybe even enjoying it a little too much. The most unsettling part is the silence afterward. There's no emotional reaction, no shock, no regret, just a quiet emptiness that says everything is already changed inside him. This moment immediately sets the tone for his entire arc in The Boys. Ryan is no longer just a victim of circumstances. He's becoming a force that could shape the future of the entire world. And that raises a terrifying question. If this is what he can do now, what happens when he stops holding anything back at all? Now, we cut straight into the most disturbing part of the episode, Homelander completely losing the last thread of sanity he had left. What makes this version of him in The Boys so terrifying isn't just his power anymore. It's the way his mind is breaking reality to fit his ego. He starts experiencing hallucinations of Madeline Stillwell. But not as she was in life. Instead, she appears almost angelic, like a divine voice guiding him. And what she tells him pushes everything over the edge. That he is not just special, not just superior, but someone who deserves more love than even Jesus himself. In his mind, this isn't madness, it's confirmation. Every delusion he has ever had about being above humanity is now being validated inside his own head. And instead of resisting it, he leans into it completely. From that point on, his actions become even more unhinged, as if he's acting out a divine mission rather than making choices. The scene then escalates into something so bizarre and uncomfortable that it almost feels unreal. He steals breast milk from a hospital NICU and bathes in it, treating it like some kind of sacred ritual, while Soldier Boy watches in disgust. Fully realizing how far Homelander has fallen, this moment isn't played for shock alone. It's showing us that Homelander no longer sees himself as human at all. He is building a god complex that is completely detached from reality. And the scariest part is that no one around him can stop it anymore. This is where the entire episode shifts from chaos to something much bigger. The discovery of the V1 secret that changes everything we thought we knew about the war. The boys uncover a shocking truth tied to Soldier Boy. His body contains traces of V1, the original Compound V formula that predates everything Vought has built since. In the moment this is revealed, it immediately reframes the entire conflict in The Boys, because this isn't just another power source. It's the origin point of all Supes, meaning it could hold the key to how they are created, controlled, or even destroyed. Suddenly, the virus that was meant to be the ultimate weapon doesn't feel so absolute anymore. If V1 can somehow interact with or counteract the virus, then the entire balance of power could collapse overnight. And the stakes rise even higher when Stan Edgar drops a horrifying piece of history. Vought didn't just experiment with Compound V in labs, they ran early. V1 trials in Nazi concentration camps, turning human suffering into the foundation of modern Supes. That revelation doesn't just add weight to the story. It exposes the true origin of the entire superhero system as something built on pure exploitation. Now both sides are racing against time. If Homelander or his allies manage to secure V1 first, then the virus becomes almost meaningless, because they could potentially neutralize it or even evolve beyond it. This isn't just a power struggle anymore, it's a race to control the very DNA of soups themselves. And whoever wins that race could decide the future of everything. This segment hits with pure chaos and betrayal, because everything starts collapsing at once. In the middle of rising tension, the Deep makes a selfish move that perfectly shows who he really is. He knocks out Black Noir just to take credit for capturing Stan Edgar, proving once again that survival and recognition matter more to him than loyalty or teamwork. It's not bravery, it's desperation wrapped in ego. And it quietly shows how fragile the entire power structure inside Vought really is. At the same time, things spiral into tragedy on another front when Maverick is accidentally killed during the chaos involving Cindy. What starts as a messy confrontation quickly turns into a devastating mistake, especially when Cindy tries to target Huey but loses control of the situation. The moment escalates so fast that there's no time to process it, and by the time the dust settles, Maverick is gone. Starlight immediately reacts in shock and rage, snapping Cindy's neck in an instant before flying away, completely overwhelmed by what just happened. There's no celebration, no relief, just emotional exhaustion and silence. And what makes this even heavier is the hidden connection to Huey's past. In The Boys Season 1, Huey killed Translucent in a desperate moment. And now history feels like it's circling back in a twisted way, as violence around him continues to spiral into unintended consequences. This isn't just action anymore, it's consequence after consequence stacking up with no clean resolution. This is the moment where everything stops feeling like separate storylines and starts crashing into one. Devastating climax. Ryan Butcher finally comes face to face with the truth about his origin, what really happened to his mother, and how he was created through violence that he was never meant to understand this early. That truth comes from Butcher, and it hits Ryan like a shockwave, breaking whatever fragile trust or confusion he still had left. When he confronts Homelander with it, expecting answers, or even denial, what he gets instead is something far worse: complete emotional collapse turning into pure rage. Homelander denies everything, refuses to accept the truth, and in that instant, something inside him snaps completely. What follows is brutal. He violently beats Ryan down, not just as punishment, but as a reaction to his own shattered identity. It's horrifying because it shows there is no limit anymore. Ryan is not protected by being his son, not protected by innocence, not protected by anything. The violence only stops when Homelander realizes how far he's gone, but by then the damage is already done. Meanwhile, Butcher arrives too late, finding Ryan unconscious, but still alive. A fragile thread between survival and death. And just when it feels like things couldn't get worse, Stan Edgar is delivered directly into Homelander's control. It's giving him access to answers, leverage, and potentially the key to V1 itself. By the end of this segment, the power balance has completely shifted. Homelander isn't just emotionally unstable anymore, he's strategically dominant, holding both information and influence. While the boys are left fractured, desperate, and dangerously behind in a war that is accelerating faster than they can react. Now, moving into episode 4 predictions, everything is pointing toward one thing: this war is about to escalate beyond control. In The Boys, every major reveal in episode 3 feels like a setup for something far bigger. And the first question is what Homelander will do now that he has Stan Edgar in his possession. With that kind of leverage, he doesn't just gain answers, he gains control over the entire history of Vought. And more importantly, access to the truth behind V1, if he pushes hard enough. He could force Edgar to reveal how V1 works, where it's stored, and whether it can interact with or neutralize the virus. And that immediately raises the fear that Homelander may not just defend himself anymore, he might actively evolve beyond every weapon meant to stop him. Then there's the question of Ryan. After being pushed to the edge and nearly killed, Ryan Butcher is standing at a turning point that could define the rest of the season. Will this finally push him fully against Homelander, or will it break him in a way that makes him even more unstable? At the same time, Starlight is still missing from the main conflict, and her return could either stabilize the boys or push them into a more aggressive, desperate strategy. And finally, discovery around Fort Harmony and the remaining traces of V1 suggests a race has already begun behind the scenes one that could decide who reaches the next level of power first. Episode 4 isn't just about consequences anymore. It's about acceleration. Everything is moving faster. The alliances are breaking. And the next episode feels like it could be the point where the entire season officially tips into full-scale war,